Hi! School has started and fall is practically here. So I will be sharing some projects featuring gorgeous fall colors as well as some tips and tricks on chart reading. Hi guys, Jessie here, also known as That Minnesota Yarn Girl, and I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. As you might have guessed, I live in Minnesota with my husband Mike, my 12-year-old son Thaden, and our two lovely kitties, Zuli and Mia. Just want to give you an update on my Waconia shawl, my very own design that I featured on my last podcast. I am planning on getting that published, but it is taking me a little bit longer than originally anticipated because it is my very first design and I'm just trying to hone in on a style for writing out my instructions and everything, and it's just taking a lot longer than originally anticipated. I'm sure all of my future designs will come out much quicker once I get that first one done. But if you are interested in testing that, I am looking for some test knitters, so please feel free to reach out to me on Ravelry and Instagram if that is something that interests you. But do be on the lookout because I will be getting that published hopefully within the next few weeks or month or so. All right, well, let's dive in with some works in progress. First work in progress that I have is my water lily sweater, which I've shared with you guys a few times now. I have made quite a bit of progress. As you can see, here is my progress marker from the last episode. Last time I had been working, I had just completed the Latvian braid. Then after, I was so excited to get done with that Latvian braid to show you guys that then when I went back and looked at the instructions, I realized I had jumped ahead a little bit and I was supposed to divide for the yoke prior to completing that at Latvian braid. So I had to rip that back, but it was nice because then I just got more practice with that. But then since I have divided for the yoke and I completed the back section, so you can see I am completely done with the lace on this back section and I love it. I can tell it's gonna be gorgeous once it's blocked out, so I really like that. And then I moved on to the front. My original goal, I thought I was gonna get this done. I started it at late July and I had been hoping to get this done by the end of August, which maybe was a bit of an aggressive goal, but now recently I've just been trying to get it done, been working on it like a mad woman, trying to just get it completed. I don't like to have too many projects on the needles at one time, and I really want to get started on my next sweater, so I've been trying to get this completed, but I ran into a little snag this week. I had knit this this is the front side, and I knit it up to where I needed to divide for the right front and the left front, and then I kind of made a mistake and I did not have a lifeline. I had meant to include a lifeline right before I needed to divide for the left front and the right front, but I forgot to put the lifeline there, and go figure, I made a mistake. So then I had to rip back about 12 rows, which was very sad. But no, I'm sorry, I had to rip back more than that. I think it was like 20 rows I had to rip back. But and 20 rows of lace, that was so much work. But I mean, the good thing is that when I had decided to divide for the left and right front, I had wished I had divided earlier. But again, I didn't have the lifeline in, so I didn't want to unknit the lace. I felt like that would just be a little bit too risky, and so then I just decided to go with where I had it. But then since I had to rip back, I've decided now I will just do 12 rows. That's why I was thinking it was 12 rows, because I'm just going to do 12 more rows and then divide for the left front and right front. So at least that's the good part, is then I'll be able to get the divide in right where I want it. But when I had made that mistake, I just decided that this had to go on a little bit of a timeout. I was hoping to get it done for the weekend, but when I made that mistake earlier this week and realized like I just wasn't gonna have it done for the weekend, and then I have a couple parties that I'm going to this weekend that I thought would be really nice to wear, but then I found out that, like I said, when I had to rip back and I was like, oh, do I really want to try to push to get this done for the weekend? And I looked at the weather and it's supposed to be kind of cool. And this is like, the top is all lacy. So this, you know, would be a warm weather shirt. And I thought, you know what, it's not really worth it to try to push myself. So I'm just going to set it aside for a few days and then come back to it with fresh, you know, just a much fresher, more excited feeling. And hopefully now I have another party next week, housewarming party for some friends next week, so that would be a great time, and I think it is supposed to warm up again next week, so I'm really now hoping just to get this done by next Saturday. I did try it on and I loved the way that it like draped. It's just, I mean, it's got silk in it, so of course it drapes really nicely. I think it's going to be gorgeous, and I'm really excited. I think it'll be like a nice date night sweater. And even if it's short sleeves and got the lacy top, I think even in the wintertime I'll be able to wear it with a shawl over it or a jacket or something. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I do plan on getting that done hopefully within the next week. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a ton left, just 12 more rows, then divide for the left front and the right front, and I don't think those will take too long. Then you block it out and Kitchener stitch it together. So look forward to seeing this as a finished object on the next podcast. Really excited about that. All right, so the next work in progress I have is not actually started just yet, because like I say, I don't like to have too many projects on the needles at one time. I am more of a project knitter versus a process knitter, so I like to have those finished objects completed, and I'm always worried like if I put it aside then I'm never gonna pick it back up. So I don't like to have too much on the needles at one time. So I'm trying to get done with my water lily sweater as quickly as possible. So the next sweater I'm going to be working on is the Harley Sweater. And the Harley Sweater is by Jenny Williams. You can find it on the Knitpicks website. So let me backtrack here. The Minnesota State Fair is huge in Minnesota. I know in some states it's not as big of a deal. Here in Minnesota, it is like, if you don't love the state fair, it's almost like you could be run out of the state. And I, shamingly enough, have not always been a super huge fan of the state fair until the last couple times that I've gone, because I found the Creative Arts Building where they feature all of the knitting, and like so people submit their knitted items, and then you can see which ones have won the blue ribbon, and there's just lots of beautiful, gorgeous works there. And so the last couple times now I've gone with Thaden, and I have just like fallen in love with a lot of the projects that you see at the state fair, including this sweater. I'll pop a picture up here, but we went a couple weeks ago, and I saw this sweater and I fell in love with it. And I said to Thaden, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I have to make that sweater. I have to make it. But I didn't know, like, that's the downside is that the tag only says who made it. It doesn't give you the pattern, it doesn't give you the yarn or anything like that. So I went home and I spent some time on Ravelry until I found the sweater, because I loved it so much. And so I am going to make this sweater. It is a Knitpicks pattern, but the yarn that they suggest, it looks like very nice yarn, but I wanted something, as you can see from the picture of the item that was submitted at the state fair, it looks really nice with the different like variations in color from the hand dyed yarns, and so that's really what I wanted to use. So I went to Twisted Loop in Prior Lake and found some Malabrigo dos Tierras and fell in love with these colors. I almost went with pink, but I tend to go with pinks too often, and right now it's fall and all I want to do, and even it's funny because when I was in there, Jenny, the owner of Twisted Loop, that's what she was saying. She's like, all I want to do is knit orange. And that's like how I feel. I just want to knit like all the fall colors because it's just about fall and I really just want to knit all these beautiful colors. So I picked out 3 colors. I am going to do a fade on my Harley sweater. So I'm going to start with this at the top for the collar and like probably the shoulder area, and then this is, like I said, Malabrigo dos Tierras, which is a 50-50 alpaca, baby alpaca merino blend, and this particular color is sunset, and then this color is Flama or Flama. And then this is going to be what I will have at the bottom, and this is called Diana. And look at this. This is so beautiful. Like all of these gorgeous colors, like this screams fall right here, right? Like it has reds and oranges and greens, and oh my God, it's so soft. It's so soft, and I love it so much. So I can't wait to get started on this sweater. Like I said, I'm gonna do a fade, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Another reason I just really have to get through my water lily sweater is because I want to start this one. And guys, this is what I'm hoping will be my Rhinebeck sweater. So I'm just like, I can't even wait. So this is what I'm going to be starting next week, and you can see it on the needles on the next podcast, hopefully. So that is my Harley sweater. Now, the next work in progress I will talk about in the next segment, improve-alongs. I love knitting, and it is not something to be feared, and I don't want you to be afraid of it either. So my goal with this segment is to encourage everyone to try a new knitting technique. So each month I will feature a different theme that I just want to encourage anyone who hasn't tried it to get something new on their needles. So this month the theme is brioche. I am super excited, guys. I've never tried brioche either before, and I've just drooled over some of these gorgeous brioche patterns in the past, and I've just never really dived into it until now. So I have not officially started a brioche pattern, but I am going to be doing this pattern by, let me check my notes here. The pattern is called Camella, and it is by Katrin Shubert, and it is, look at this hat. I'm going to show you a picture, and it's perfect for fall because it has these leaves. I just love it so much. And guys, I am so excited about the colors. Okay, so I participated in the Southwest Yarn Quest, which was a scavenger hunt done by 5 local yarn shops here in the Twin Cities, and they had unique hand-dyed yarn by Lavender Lune Yarn Co., who is a hand dyer in northern Minnesota, and she dyed a unique skein of yarn for each shop. So each shop had their own skein of yarn, their own colorway. And so I participated in the scavenger hunt, and I got all 5 skeins, and they're all gorgeous, and they're all so fall themed. And so I couldn't decide. I was like, but I knew that I wanted to use that yarn for this hat because, again, all of these colors just scream fall, and this hat has these beautiful leaves, and to me, again, screams fall. It just seemed like a match made in heaven. So I knew I had to use these colors, but there was 5 of them, and I couldn't decide which ones I wanted to use. I narrowed it down to 3 really. So This is called Indian Corn, and this one was purchased at Twisted Loop in Prior Lake, and it came with this mini skein of green. There's this one, I'm calling it unnamed green because it just came together with the Indian Corn, and it didn't say what the color of it was. When you went to Twisted Loop to buy this Indian Corn, it came with a mini skein, and I think there was 2 or 3 different colors along with it that you could choose. I know one was orange. I can't remember what the other one was. And then this green, which I just thought it was so fun that I couldn't pass up the green. And then this skein of yarn is Poppin Maize, and this one was purchased at, which one did I get this one at? It was at Northfield Yarn. And so when I saw this hat, I couldn't decide if I was going to put these 2 colors together, so the Indian Corn and the Poppin Maize, or the Indian Corn with the skein, the mini skein that it came with, this unnamed green color, which again, I really love it. So guys, check these out. I swatched it up because I couldn't decide, and look at how these swatches came out. I don't know. Which color do I choose? They're both gorgeous. Before I started knitting, I thought, I'm probably gonna like these 2 colors together because I just feel like it's kind of elegant. It's the light color on top of the dark color. I mean, that's your typical brioche kind of pattern. It just looks gorgeous. I can see it as a nice little hat. I love it, right? This is what I thought I was gonna like the most. But I knew that because this unknown green color came with the Indian Corn, that I had to try them together. And when I started swatching this up, I was like, I like this one way better. I love how the various colors of the Indian Corn really just, you can see them, they stand out really nicely. And it's not nearly, you can't see the brioche as well as you can in this pattern. It's a lot more subtle, but that green just kind of gives it a nice little pop behind it, and I really, really like it. So as I'm knitting this, then I was like, no, this has to be it. And then I picked this back up, and I was like, no, I love them both. I need your help, guys. I need your help. Please comment below and tell me, which one do you like? A, so this is Poppin Maize with Indian Corn. Do you like A? Or B, which is Indian Corn with unnamed green? A, Poppin Maize Indian Corn. B, Indian Corn unnamed green. Which one do you like? Which one do I actually make my hat out of? I love them both. I can't decide. I need your help. So anyways, those are my gorgeous colors that I love so much. But a little bit about my experience knitting up brioche. So that, like I said, this is the first time I've ever attempted brioche. I was trying it last night, and I started out, there's a couple classes on Craftsy that I was using. So Craftsy is great. They have I pay the yearly subscription to get unlimited classes. And I wasn't really about to kind of take the whole class. I was a little too impatient. So I just kind of went through and I started practicing, and I got down the single color brioche right away. It went pretty smoothly, and I feel like if you're a relatively experienced knitter, it takes a little bit, but after a few rows, it does start to become intuitive. So it was fine. It was great. I was having fun. Was like, whatever, okay. Then I pick up the second skein, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to conquer the 2-color brioche. And that didn't go quite as well. It might have been because I was up a little late for myself. I'm usually in bed by 8:39, and my husband comes home and he's like, it's 9:30, right? And I'm still on the couch trying to figure this out, and I'm getting all frustrated and frantic. I woke up this morning and I looked at the directions, and I just kind of had a click aha moment. I needed to rather than just trying to start my second color right where I had left off with the first color, you have to use either double pointed or circular needles, and you have to slide it over and then start at the opposite side with your second color. So that's why it was not going quite so well for me last night. And then I conquered it this morning and made these lovely swatches. So that was my experience. I am gonna pop up some, like I said, I used a Craftsy class to a couple different Craftsy classes I kind of watched to try and get it down. But I also found some great tutorials on YouTube, and I will pop links in down below, so please go ahead and give it a try yourself. If you're not quite sure, you're feeling like you want to give the the two color brioche a try, then at least give the single color brioche a try, because even that makes gorgeous patterns. And then if you start with that, then who knows, someday you'll be able to move on to the two colors and do something like that. But like I said, I am going to be knitting the Camella hat, but please pick anything you would like to knit up in brioche, and feel free to jump in on the chatter thread in that Emma and Yarn Girl podcast group page in Ravelry, and then when you're done, show us some pictures of your finished objects. And by the way, I don't know what I'm going to be giving away yet, but I do plan on giving some prizes. I'll probably pick some winners in December. I think I'll grab one from the various chatter threads, and then I'll grab at least one from the finished object thread, maybe more from the finished objects, but I'm not going to close that out until I think December. I'll probably pick winners about quarterly, so you have until then, you have until December to grab one of or to knit something up in brioche and post a finished object. Also, if you want to do the Latvian braid, which was last month's theme, you can still feel free to submit a picture of a finished object with a Latvian braid as well. So that is what we got for the Improve Along this month. Moving on to Knitflixing. So the last couple weeks, guys, my son Thaden and I have been watching Making It, which is a lot of fun. We usually watch America's Got Talent on Tuesday and Wednesday night, and then it just got left on the TV one day, and we didn't really discover it until I think there was like 2 or 3 episodes left. So then we went back and watched all of the previous episodes on, I think on YouTube TV we found them, and it's a great thing to watch while you're knitting, because it's really inspiring to see these people making these fantastic things while you're making something. It's a lot of fun, right? And also I mean, like I said, it's just inspiring. I just feel like I admire these people so much, because I love to make things, obviously, but I don't know that I could ever have this. I don't feel like I could ever be as talented as they are when they just they're so good at so many different crafts, and they're so well-rounded, and they come up with these beautiful things. And it was a lot of fun to watch. Like I said, it's great to watch while you're knitting, because you just feel good about making something while watching other people make stuff. And also, it's not, it's great. It's like something that you can kind of listen to, but you don't have to pay super close attention to, so you can have a harder pattern on your needles while you're watching it. You don't have to focus on it really closely. So it is just something you could do just about any kind of pattern, with the exception of learning a new skill like brioche. I wouldn't do that, but something that you know how to do, but maybe is needs a little more thought. Hi, Zuli. Zuli likes to come visit us, doesn't she? It is almost her dinner time, and she's like, feed me. Anyways, so it is a great show to watch while you're making something, and it doesn't require, you can do complicated patterns. The only thing is you might want to pause, like when it's coming up to the end where they start showing all of their spectacular, like they show it all at once, and that's when you kind of want to pause so you can actually see what they've done and created. But other than that, I feel like you could do just about any kind of pattern while watching it, and it's a lot of fun. The other show that we recently watched was Cobra Kai, and it's, guys, that show is a ton of fun, and it's great for the whole family. So Cobra Kai is, it's basically a continuation of the Karate Kid. So I would recommend you have to see the Karate Kid really before you can jump into it. Or if you, even like I had seen the Karate Kid before, but it's been years. So we all watched it as a family before we dove in and started watching Cobra Kai. And it's really, I mean, it's good because the characters carry over, and in fact even the same actors from the original movie are in the new series, and it's a lot of fun. It's just about, like, it's about the same characters but what their lives are like now, and kind of the rivalry that's still going on between them. And it's a fun show, and like I said, it's fun for the whole family. I mean, maybe not if you had really little kids, but it was a lot of fun for Thaden and us to watch, and we all watched it together, and it was yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And I think, again, not a super hard show, or like you don't need to pay like super close attention. So again, you could have a fairly difficult knitting pattern on the needles while you're watching the show. You know, it's maybe not like not your toughest pattern. You probably would never be watching TV and knitting your toughest pattern anyways, but you know, something that maybe a not too complicated lace you could probably handle. I was working on my water lily sweater while we watched Cobra Kai, so that was and that was perfectly fine. And so, like I said, good show, a great one to watch while knitting. So that's Knitflixing for this week. Guys, it's time for Knit Happens, and there's something super fun in the news this week. Betsy Bond from, let me check my notes, Wiltshire, UK, she created the world's largest knitting needles. She just this week, so they were created a while ago, but just this week she officially broke the world record for the largest knitting needles, and they are 4 meters long, or that's like over 13 feet, just over 13 feet long. Can you imagine? Like, you'd have to two-hand those guys to make it. And then she actually talked about how she really enjoyed like going out in public and like making things with her knitting needles, like her giant knitting needles, like she's knitting in public. She's like, oh, it's a great conversation starter. I just thought that was hilarious. I can't even imagine. But they take up a whole ton of space. I'll pop up a picture here. I got this off of the Guinness World Record website, just featuring her and her ginormous knitting needles. How fun, and congratulations, Betsy, for breaking the world record. All right, that brings us to our final segment, tips, tricks, and hacks. So this week I want to talk about charts and reading charts. This might be review for some of you more experienced knitters, but I just feel like for somebody who's just starting out, I just want to kind of go over some things with charts that might make their life easier. So first of all, to start with, and I had a pattern on here, but it was not a free one, so I removed it and just put my show notes on here. But so to start with, I want to show you guys. I purchased this on Amazon. I think it was by Knitter's Pride. But this is awesome. Like, this pretty much lives right here. And and you can see there's like this nice little magnet line here that you can just follow along up and down your pattern. So it works for words, or if you had a chart, it would also work to move that up, and then so you would just move along with your rows. And like I said, it's a nice little folder. So see, it folds and it has these little snaps, and then to get it to come up like this, you just snap it, and then it sits there all on its own. And this is magnetic, so you have these magnets here. You have magnets that hold your pattern in, and then this here that, like I said, moves up and down for you. And then it has a nice little compartment back here for holding any patterns. I love this. I used to have a much larger size, but that didn't really seem to fit into too many project bags. So I grabbed a couple smaller sizes like this, because this will fit in my project bag. Speaking of this and using sheets of paper, so if I can't print a sheet of paper off of, like if it's not a pattern that I got off of Ravelry, like if I found it in a book, I really like to make a copy, because I love, well, for one thing, again, I love to be able to put it in here, but I also like to be able to write on my patterns, make notes, and then, all kinds of different, it's just useful to be able to write all over it and say, like, you left off here, or highlight things, whatever. So I really like to make copies or print the pattern out. The other thing, now it's useful, I have my show notes right here. The other thing about that makes it helpful, oh, and it comes with a pen. The other thing that's helpful if you have a sheet is then you can highlight different things. So if I have if I have a pattern that has a lot of knit two together and then SSKs, and like your chart will have those little slashes that lean to the right for knit two together and lean to the left for SSKs. So I know that, but if I'm just kind of moving along, sometimes I don't want to have to like stop and think. So I always highlight those on my chart so that it stands out. And I always use the same color. So I always use green for my knit two together, and always use blue for my SSKs. So you just highlight it so you're moving along, and you don't have to really like stop and which direction is that leading? Like sometimes you're maybe tired or whatever, and you don't want to, it just makes it easier if it's just glaringly obvious with a color. It also works really nice for cables. Like if do I have to hold the yarn in back, or do I have to hold the yarn in front? I will highlight them. I can't remember now what colors I use, but it's pink and orange. I can't remember which one I use for front and back, but I try to keep it the same usually, because then later on when I come back, it just like my brain kind of knows. But again, like highlighting your stitches on a sheet helps you to remember, so you don't have to kind of keep referring to the key. Speaking of the key, that's another reason that I really like to print out or copy my charts, is because if the key is on a separate page, or maybe it gets covered up by this thing, I will actually copy it or print it, like, so I have a separate key, and then I'll just like use one of my different magnets and like stick it in the bottom so that it doesn't get covered up by anything else, so that as I'm moving through my chart, that key is still visible. It's not, when it's symbols that you're using all the time, it's not as big of a deal, because the SSK and the knit two together. But if there are some different symbols that maybe you haven't worked with as much before, then it's definitely nice to have that little key to be always visible, instead of having to like move your stuff around. Let's see, what else about... Oh, it's also nice to a lot of times your charts will have, they'll have the repeats sectioned off. So I also will sometimes highlight that, or at least trace it, because sometimes if you print it out or if you copy it, that like bolded line where your repeats are, it's not always as clear. So I will trace it in a different color or highlight it or something, so I can see like, yep, those are my repeats. It just helps with that. Let's see. then just a few other things. If you are new to reading charts, you do just want to remember that sometimes if you're just purling on your wrong side rows, some designers won't include that purl row. I still like it because I hope that I like when they do, because sometimes I shouldn't say I don't really do this anymore, but there has been times where I have forgotten to purl a row, or I'm just like going along doing my lace chart and I'm like, oh look, and then I want to go and knit my next lace row, and then I'm like a few stitches in, I'm like, this isn't right. Oh, because I should have been purling it. But so it's just good to remember that sometimes that purl row is not in the chart if that's all you're doing is purling back. And then another thing to remember about charts is that if it's worked in the round, then all of your, so if it's worked flat, then your numbers are going to start, you're going to start reading from the right side for your first row across, and then the next row would be, you start from the left side, same as if you were knitting. So you would knit from the right to the left, and then when you get to this next row, you would be knitting from the left to the right. And so that's how your chart would read. But if you're going to be working in a round, it's all of them are going to start from the same side, because that's the same way you're going to knit. You're going to always be starting from the same side on the round. So that's just another thing to remember. And again, I forgot to mention that, so if you don't have a magnetic thing like this, Post-its are another great way to just follow along and keep track, but I'm sure almost everybody knows that. So hopefully, but if you didn't, that's another thing that could be useful for you. And then finally, I did find this too on the internet once, which is just if you have a hard time seeing, it will magnify and blow up the lines for you. So just a few different, hopefully helpful hints on, and then one other thing, I almost forgot. It just threw my chart aside and it knocked into my little tin, which reminded me about this. So I buy these little tins. They're like almost like little Altoid jars. I've been buying these to hold like my cable needles and my markers and my darning needles. Hi there, Zuli. Yes. You just wanted to say hi again? I buy these, and I came across this by accident. But this, because it's metal, this also will stick on top of one of my magnets, which is great. I noticed this when I was knitting in the car last week, because then I didn't have to worry about this like sliding around and getting lost. So this is also kind of a nice little feature too, that this little magnetic thing will stick, or this metal thing, will stick to the magnets. So just another little fun tip for you. So I hope you guys learned something from that. Like I said, maybe some experienced knitters may have already known most of that, but anybody that's new, maybe you got something out of that. But that is everything for tips, tricks, and hacks. All right, that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me. And if you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, and comment below. If you really liked it, you can go ahead and tap the little bell. That will give you reminders anytime I post a new video. I should be posting probably early next week when I have a new update for my Master Knitter program. But again, I want to just thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys next time. And in the meantime, I will leave you with a picture of cats and hats. Bye!